Let me ask this. In general, what does a Philadelphia crowd mean to you? Like, as a broadcaster, as somebody who has been doing it for 27 years, as someone who grew up here, when you get that crowd in the building, what does it mean to you to have a fan base like that?
Really, for me, Mark, and I don't mean to sound flippant about this, but it's really a deeply emotional experience for me because, as I just said, this is the team I grew up rooting for. You could see I went to Super Bowl 52, 41-33, February 4th, 2018. I mean, these are the things that you think about every day. This is part of our fabric. It's part of the blood. It's red, white, and blue blood, or it's green blood on Sundays, or whatever it happens to be. So for me, inside, I'm a part of that. I'm a part of that crowd. And when I'm done doing the games, whenever that happens to be, I'll be a part of that crowd as well. In the meantime, I'm a Union season ticket holder. I'm an Eagles season ticket holder. I watch the Flyers when I can. And of course, the Phillies, don't forget them. I go way back with them to the early 60s. So again, it's an emotional thing for me. And deep inside, I'm cheering right along with them.
Where does this team – I know you probably hate the question of ranking teams, but for me personally, this team is right there with the 0-1 team in terms of excitement. They have the dynamic player like Joel Embiid, similar to Allen Iverson in terms of how dynamic and exciting they could be on the court. Where does this team right now rank, being that it looks like they'll at least get out of the first round of the playoffs here?
Yeah, right now they rank among the best I've ever seen. But again, listen, I think they're going to win the NBA title. That's been my prediction all along. And if you go back to the first pregame show we had this year for the home opener, ironically, against the Wizards in December on NBC Sports Philadelphia, they asked me to make some kind of a prediction that I had not thought of to that point. And I said that Joel Embiid could very well be the MVP. So I've been a believer all along. Obviously, the final answer is in what they do come, the rest of these playoffs. And they have to show that, they could have a problem in the second round with Atlanta and New York. I'm not saying they won't get by them. I think that they will. But these are teams that are going to present stiffer competition. And then the inevitable Nets or Bucks, which is going to be an epic series. And then you have to survive that and meet who in the finals, whether it's the Lakers again or the Utah Jazz or somebody like that. So there is a lot of that road to hoe. But in the meantime, to this point, clearly one of the best Sixer teams I've ever seen.
Last thing for you here, Mark. What has been the biggest difference, or at least the biggest difference maker on this team from last year to this year?
It's popular to say Doc Rivers, and in fact, that is clearly the big difference. Of course, there have been differences in personnel as well. The additions of Danny Green and Seth Curry, just thinking off the top of my head. I also think, as I'd mentioned earlier, a natural maturation process. Whether it's Tobias Harris coming of age under a coach he's played under before, or Joel Embiid or Ben Simmons. The one thing that I don't want to take away from, and I don't know how popular this will be, is the fact that Brett Brown, whether or not he was the guy who was going to get them to this point, deserves some credit. Remember, he developed Joel Embiid while he sat out for 2 years with injury. And he made Ben Simmons into a point guard, even though he did miss his rookie year. So while Brett isn't here to claim any of that credit, I feel compelled that I want to claim some of that credit for him. He had to sit through those process years, and now I think in some measure we are all reaping the benefits of his labors.
Yeah, I'll say when I go back and forth with fans on Twitter, that's one of the first things they point out is, oh, well, that's the difference between Doc Rivers and Brett Brown.
Right.
And I always say, well, you mentioned personnel. Daryl Morey had a big hand too. I mean, these are two starters in your lineup now that you didn't even have last year. One's already a champion in Danny Green.
That, and the fact that I think what he has done is he has brought players to Doc Rivers that Doc feels he needs to play the kind of game that he wants to play. So a credit to both of those guys for establishing a really good vibe between the two of them. So listen, the roster is now set. This is the hand they're being dealt, but I have to tell you that they are loaded. And I do, again, believe it's a team that's going to win it all.
All right, well, I know at some point, regardless of what happens, if they do win a championship, I know in some way we will get a Marc Zumoff call of that the final seconds. I know we can work that. I know we can make it happen.